YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark, and it's a nice Monday morning. Hope everybody's having a good start to their week, but let's just go ahead and jump into what we're going to be talking about in this video. So I basically just kind of want to make this video because there's just been an excessive amount of leaks lately. And, that's kind of the thing with a game like this is that there's only so much content to kind of cover and stuff like that outside of gameplay and, doing the typical stuff like top 10s and just all the kind of content that I've been doing since, on my channel since the release of this game. But leaks and stuff are all fine and good, but I think that a lot of people, they get really attached to certain characters and those characters releasing and stuff like that. So I just kind of wanted to have this video to kind of go over some things and just talk about some stuff that I've been thinking about in regards to, a lot of the leaks and what we can kind of expect or should be kind of expecting or not expecting with the release of season 2, because we're not too far out from it. We've already been a little bit into our, mid-season release and update and stuff like that. And I hope everybody's been enjoying that so far, but let's just go ahead and get into what I've been thinking about. So basically, here's just kind of a list of characters that people potentially think are coming with season 2 based off of different things that they found in the game, whether it be, voice lines or character models or whatever. And then I'll just kind of talk about what my thoughts are and why maybe you should be excited for certain ones or maybe not be excited for certain ones and all that good jazz. So first we have Blade. They found Blade's character model in the game. The storyline has been leading up to Blade. So there's a lot of stuff going on around him. Deadpool, we've just recently found some voice lines. Now these voice lines, they're not actually Deadpool talking like most of the voice lines. They're just other people talking to Deadpool. So that's been interesting. And then we have Emma Frost. Emma Frost, we've also found voice lines for her as well, not for her, but people talking to her and saying her by name. Next after that, we have Jean Grey. There's been a lot of talk about her. Recently, they've also found voice lines for Captain Marvel as well. Then we have MODOK. We've had certain voice lines where people were making reference to him, and one in particular where they referenced the fact that they would be glad they didn't have to see a big head anymore. And then after that, we have one that people have been talking about for a long time, which we don't have any specific lines. Actually, I think there was one specific voice line that was referencing him directly. But outside of that, that was just kind of something where data miners had found that information in the game files, with his name being referenced. And then after that, not last, but second to last, we have MODOK. I think a lot of people know MODOK. He had his own TV show, just like Hitmonkey. And then last but not least, we have Cyclops. Now, Cyclops, there hasn't been anything in the game that's been found in particular. I think that a lot of people have just kind of assumed that if we'd be getting Emma Frost and Jean Grey, two people that are closely tied to Cyclops, that we might be getting Cyclops. Now, let me just kind of start off and talk about, for example, Blade, right? A lot of people really think Blade's coming in this next season, which would be season 2, which, I don't necessarily think maybe he's not coming per se, but, well, yeah, actually, I do think there are a couple of things that would kind of deter me from thinking that he's coming. And it's actually kind of the fact that he kind of has the most amount of things in the game so far that would kind of lead to him coming to the game. So first with Blade, the whole storyline with Dracula, he's been being referenced this whole time. We saw him in some artwork for the game in regards to those little title cards that we get or whatever they're called for the game. And also just, as with the mid-season update, when we got this new map, Dracula's the Dracula theme map, we've seen a lot of stuff for Blade. First, there was in Squirrel Girl's little lair, her little hut that you start in the spawn for that map. There is actually a board game that has Blade as one of the little characters on this tabletop game. After that, he's actually in the map, right? It's in a particular room, but you can actually see Blade chained up. You can walk up to him, all that kind of stuff. And, with the end of the season, he was supposed to be, released and freed from Dracula's lair or whatever you want to call it. And, that has a lot of people thinking oh, okay, well, the obvious thing is that they would just release Blade, with the next season, since his storyline has kind of come to an end in regards to him, fighting Dracula, getting captured by him, chained up, all that kind of stuff, which is actually kind of wild, I have to say, during Black History Month. But whatever, we'll let that slide. And then, like I said, there's been a few other things that have been referenced, and people have found his full character model. And with him having a character model in the game, even myself, I made a video initially and I said, hey, he's more than likely coming to the game. We found him along with 1,000 other, Marvel Rivals content creators. And, that would make sense. But if you think about it, though, the reason why I don't think that he's coming is because really, if you think about it, right, we've had Doom like since the beginning of the game. Doom has been everywhere. He's all over different maps. He's been mostly primarily featured in mostly artwork and stuff like that for those little collectible cards and stuff that you get in the game. We've seen just like so much stuff for Doom, and it would make sense that like Doom would be the next person that would be coming, right? But it seems like they have like characters like that in the game where the story is kind of like revolving around them and like what they're doing and stuff like that. But then they don't necessarily bring them to the game, though. It's just more kind of like this background lore that's going on, right? And, the same thing with Blade. I feel like with Blade, he could come with season 2, but I also just kind of feel like, and I'll talk about this more in a moment, is that like that's not the theme that they're going with. It seems like, and it's kind of hard to say, oh, well, based off of this, because we've only had one season where they've actually like released characters so far, like really released characters, and so far that's been the Fantastic Four, which kind of made sense to me because we have the Fantastic Four movie coming out in July, and I've said numerous times on this channel that I really think that they're using this game to kind of like push forward what it is that they're doing, like, in the MCU as well. We already have a lot of skins that are featured and stuff like that, which makes sense. It's a Marvel game. You have certain characters that have been, Avengers for a long time. So it makes sense that you would, kind of like push those things and stuff like that and give the more like MCU aesthetic and stuff. But still, though, I just kind of feel like personally, Blade doesn't really fit in right now. And yeah, he was cool for the story and to get people hype and stuff. But even with his model being in the game, a lot of people would say, well, why is his character model in the game? And to me, it's just because like, well, they wanted to put him there as like that fixture on that map, like the Dracula map, and have him there. And if they had to put him in the game at all, then there would be a model for him. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, he's more than likely going to like be in the game. Now, once again, like I said, he could be in, but I don't think he's going to be in. Now, Deadpool as well. Deadpool, he could be coming with season 2 as well. Like a lot of these, you hear me say that a lot. They could be coming, and that's just kind of because, like I said, we don't know. This is all just speculation, but I'm just kind of going with where I've been thinking, right? Like we had that calling card with Deadpool that I think the only way you could have got it was by playing whatever that other Marvel game is, the card game or whatever it is. It's like a video game, but it's a card game. I forget the name of it. I've never played it, but nonetheless, though, there was that Deadpool calling card that's in the game, and a lot of people had speculated for a while that he would be coming. But just like anything else, we have plenty of like Doom calling cards and stuff like that. A lot of different calling cards that have characters that aren't necessarily in the game and may not be coming anytime soon, right? So and like I said, we haven't actually seen like a character model or anything. We haven't heard any voice lines from him, just other characters referencing him and stuff. So there's that. Now next I'll cover Captain Marvel as well. Captain Marvel seems like the kind of character that would come like later down the road, and maybe fit like her own theme, maybe when they're releasing more of like, Marvel, not Marvel, but, Avengers characters, like, when they're kind of doing a theme for that. So that could be a thing, but I think it would just be more down the road, right? Now, I'll cover both of these together at the same time, Hitmonkey and MODOK. They're kind of more like obscure characters in the Marvel universe. They made a TV show for Hitmonkey, and I really didn't hear a lot of people talking about it. I watched the show. It was all right, but Hitmonkey would be cool. He's basically like the monkey form of like John Wick, or like a mixture of like Deadpool, just kind of like all out full on Blaze assassin, which is cool and everything. I think he would be an interesting character. It just kind of feels very random, and that's kind of the same thing with MODOK, right? Like funny guy, cool, in regards to like the type of character that he is. It's not like he's cool compared to like a Cyclops or Jean Grey or anything like that, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like he's more just random, very random, like Hitmonkey, you know what I mean? So I don't think that they would be releasing those anytime soon. Now, the two characters that I do think that may be coming, simply because they're the only characters that really fit a theme. And also, I just want to preface this next part by saying that NetEase, the company that makes Marvel Rivals, has already said numerous times through different outlets and stuff like that in interviews that this season that we got was going to be like the biggest season. Now, granted, they may not even know, maybe from their internal analytics and whatever, they change their mind, and maybe we will get 2 characters. for every half of a season, but I doubt it though. And like I said, it'd be really nice, but I just doubt it though. I feel like the formula they're gonna go with would be one character every half of a season, right? So every season we would get two characters overall, and they would just split those two characters into one at the release of one season or one half of a season, and then the other one at the other half of a season, right? And the characters that I think that they would do that with would be Emma Frost and Jean Grey. Now, the reason that I think this is because we actually saw or read in the one of the little parts of the little comic books that we get when we finish all the different pages and stuff like that. In the conclusion of this season, we saw that Doom had defeated Dracula. I can't remember exactly. It's been a while since I read it. But he basically defeated Dracula, and when one of the last things he says is that he has a gala to attend, right? And there's already been leaks and stuff for the Hellfire Gala. Now, if you're not aware of what the Hellfire Gala is in the X-Men kind of world and ethos and stuff, I'm going to make a separate video probably tomorrow, just kind of breaking down different, costumes and stuff from the Hellfire Gala. And in that video, I'll do a little backstory and explain to the people that aren't aware of it, kind of the history of that and why that's relevant. But nonetheless, though, Emma Frost, just to kind of, summarize it a little bit, she is the person that hosts the initial one. Now, I don't remember if she was the host for because there's been 3 so far to my knowledge, but I don't know if she was the host for the other 2. But initially, she was the main host and stuff like that of the initial, Hellfire Gala. And that would totally make sense to me, her coming. And, the other character, too, would be Jean Grey. And the reason why I think so is because they would be releasing in season 2. Is that would fit more like a theme, right, of the X-Men. Now we already have X-Men characters in the game, so it's not like this would be something new, like the Fantastic Four, how they weren't, at all in the game prior, because they're kind of their own little thing. They're like Marvel royalty, but they're also their own thing. And like I said, it makes sense because the new movie will be coming out in a handful of months, right? You're only 4 months or so away. I think it's July or something when it comes out. I could be wrong, but I think it was July 7th or 4th or something like that, right? Somewhere around there. Definitely like a midsummer type of deal. So that made a lot of sense. And it's the same thing with the X-Men. Even though the X-Men don't have a movie coming out initially, they haven't even started casting or anything for it. It would make sense that they every so often will be releasing X-Men characters, right, to the lead up and build up of Marvel's, iteration of the Fantastic Four, now that they own the movie rights to it and whatnot and stuff like that. And they got those from Fox. So we might actually get a really good X-Men movie. Not saying that the previous ones weren't good, but Fox definitely has a thing with, I don't know. It's just, it's going to be a whole different experience once the X-Men are actually in a combined universe with, the Fantastic Four, all of the, the Avengers version of the MCU and all that kind of, or the MCU version of the Avengers. So that'd definitely be a different thing. But like I said, with Emma Frost and Jean Grey, it would make a lot more sense to me simply because they are characters that, are very prevalent, in the Marvel universe. Some of the outside of the main group of X-Men, some of the most well-known, and the fact that, it just kind of seems like with not Jean Grey, but Emma Frost being more like a dual tank character, kind of like a hybrid between Cloak and Dagger with her abilities that have been leaked and stuff. And even those, we don't know if those are her abilities for sure, but usually the leaks are pretty good. When people start leaking abilities and stuff, they're usually pretty spot on. So that would just make a lot of sense to me, a lot more sense. And, like I said, I was just kind of making this video because there's so many leaks, right? And I've noticed in comment sections and stuff, mine and on Twitter and things like that, there's a lot of people that they kind of hear a particular character and they become locked in. There's still people that are waiting for Ultron. And I hate to break it to a lot of people, but I don't think Ultron is coming anytime soon. Do I think he will eventually come? Yes. But, the thing with the leaks and stuff is that, people are just data mine. That's what data miners are going to data mine. That's what they're going to do. They're going to go through files and they're going to find things. And the thing is that a lot of different X-Men were found. I'm talking about Jubilee, Beast, like I said, Cyclops, Professor X, just so many different ones. I could go on and on. So there was at least probably, I'd say 11 or 12 different X-Men characters, along with a bunch of other more obscure characters that were found in the files and stuff, and not necessarily their character models or voice lines or anything. There was just, their names were pretty much written in certain areas, and that's where people got a lot of that information from. But like I said, a lot of people, they will see that there's, little leaks like that, and they don't know exactly what's going on, so they kind of take it to heart and they become locked in. The same way that when people saw that Blade was in the game, they just kind of said, oh, I would love to play Blade. Blade's one of my favorite characters. Oh, they did a really good job on his design, yada, 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 right? So, I just kind of make these videos to it's nice to get hyped up for things, but me personally, with covering leaks for a long time, whether it was with this game or with Call of Duty, I've learned to kind of like lower my expectations and kind of like, it's nice to like hope for something. Like I'd love to have Jean Grey, Emma Frost, Cyclops, Professor X, however they would work that out and make that happen. Along with a lot of different X-Men and stuff like that. It's just that, like I said, with them saying that we're only going to get one character every half of a season, and you think about like the fact that their seasons tend to last like, 2.5 to 3 months or something like that. You got to do the math on like how many can practically be released in a year. And, with me, it kind of goes both ways, because would I prefer that they do 2 every season? Because it's already hard enough to play. Like with, this last time around, I spent like half the day just trying to play the Human Torch or the Thing, right? Because they got insta-locked immediately. And especially when you're only doing one character, it's a battle to even be able to play that character to begin with, unless you're doing like a Doom match or a private match or something like that. So yeah, it will be nice, but I also understand the practicality of them having to balance these characters out. You know what I mean? And the other part of it too is why I would wish they would do more, is simply because, I think that there's an overwhelming amount. I mean, we got like 35 characters, and, you have like 7 healers, 7 tanks. There might be a little bit more than that now, but the balance to like tank and healer versus DPS ratio is very wide open. And I think that having more of each, outside of DPS, obviously, because there's already so many, would really, make people want to play those roles more. Because right now there's just not a lot of, reason for like the average player to want to pick anything other than DPS. They're some of the coolest, most fun characters to play with, and it's kind of like a hassle to play with other characters. Not me personally. I love healers. I'm learning how to play tanks more. Up until now, I've only been playing Penny. I'm learning Captain America now, but even still, though, it's like, obviously, if there's more choice and variety, and people always want to play with the new thing, right? So if there's more of those things, then, no pun intended with the thing, but like if there's more of them, people will be, more open to choosing him. So, but yeah, like I said, I just, I want to make this to just kind of talk about it practically and kind of compare it to other things. Like I was saying about, Blade and how, his models in the game and, there's been a whole story around him, but we also had the same thing with Doom, and the fact that Deadpool, yeah, he may have voice lines, but we haven't seen anything else for him. And that's not to say that they can't put this stuff in the last minute, or maybe they're kind of trying to hide this stuff because they know people are constantly looking for, the next little bit of information. But even still, though, I feel like with Fantastic Four, we had a lot more to kind of go off of well before they were released or anything like that. So it kind of made sense and seemed less, it was a little more obvious that they were coming, right? Versus with these characters, we have very little to go off of, except kind of, like I said, with us knowing that the Hellfire Gala is, the next kind of part of the story. And the Hellfire Gala story would not be a very good, story if it didn't have some type of X-Men involved, seeing as how that's kind of like their whole thing. So, but yeah, let me know in the comments, though, what you guys think. Like, who do you think is coming next? Why do you think that? I'd love to hear from people, just because I have thoughts on stuff and opinions, that's exactly what it is. It's just an opinion, and what they say about opinions and stuff like that. Everybody's got one. So let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys, what you think about it, who you think is coming next, all that good jazz. But I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.